Welcome to the Rock Fight, where we speak our truth, slay sacred cows, and sometimes agree to disagree. This is an outdoor podcast that aims for the head. I'm Colin True, and today we have the latest from Tariff Watch 2025, as well as our reaction to Columbia's new brand campaign. But before we get to that, tomorrow, Doug Schnitzbahn opens the container like he always does on Tuesday. His guest this week, environmental journalist Sophie Benson. This is maybe my favorite open container yet, and I've heard them all. Come back to the Rock Fight this Wednesday when I'll be joined by Shante Salabert to chat about the latest headlines to come out of the outdoor adventure community. And lastly, be sure to subscribe to News from the Front, the Rock Fight's weekly newsletter. Head to rockfight.co and sign up today and stick around. We'll be right back. In the store aisles, a quiet revolution is happening. With Endeavor, frontline staff aren't just selling products, they're building trust, making connections, and turning browsers into loyal customers. Let's see how. He didn't know which brand he wanted, just that the trail ahead was rocky. But she knew, because she'd trained for this moment right on her phone. A quick conversation, a confident recommendation, and a perfect fit hiking boot later, he's ready for his trip. That's right, she's a... It may be lunchtime, but between sandwich bites, he learned about fog fighting tech and snow goggles. An hour later, that knowledge helped a customer pick the perfect pair and add a helmet too. Learning on the go, selling with certainty, adding value. Yup, he's a... Endeavor is a mobile-first platform that equips retail staff with training, incentives, and tools to boost sales and brand engagement. Brands gain insights, sell-through improves, while retail associates stay motivated. Ready to get started? Just head to endeavor.io, update your brand profile, and upload your dealer list to access the free features and, when you're ready, launch your first pay-as-you-go campaign. With flexible, scalable options, Endeavor turns everyday interactions into strategic wins. The result? Be a shop floor hero. Endeavor's here to stay. Shop floor hero. Sell-through is the way. Hey, everyone. Before we keep going here, I need to tell you about our teammates at Darby Communications. Like I've been telling you, if you run an outdoor, an endurance, or an active lifestyle brand, there is no better PR and digital marketing belay partner or drinking buddy than Darby. They can help your business reach new heights, and they might just keep you from falling on your ass. Since we started working with Darby, more and more people, and this is an important point now, guys, I want you to hear me on this, more and more people have reached out to us here at the Rock Fight because of that messaging. Look, guys, I'm dead serious. If they can help us, they can help anybody. Hit them up at darbycommunications.com. Do it today. All right, I'm here with my fellow potential losers for the top outdoor brand draft, producer Dave and the consigliere Eoin Comerford. Guys, Shantae's on the verge of winning 2 drafts in a row. I think she must be stopped. I'm not okay with where this is going.
Clearly. I think, we're coming out Monday morning. I think we still have maybe a day left where people can really have their voices heard in this really highly important, potentially industry setting vote. So please get out there and vote for the best team, mine, obviously. And yes, Shantae must be stopped.
The Trump administration just announced that the winners of this draft are exempt from tariffs, I think is what's going to happen. So, Dave, you're really letting your team down, I think
we'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah, that's right.
Besides, Colin, haven't we learned bigger isn't always better? It's about quality. It's about refined taste. I'm thinking we're doing just fine.
Okay, you keep telling yourself that, Dave. And Colin, how can people vote for this incredible and an important award?
You head to rockfight.co. You'll see it on the homepage. Click the link, vote here, and vote for Colin's team is exactly what you do. That's the instructions.
Team. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just not Shantae's team, okay?
Just anything but Shantae's team. And just in case, you wanted to know, my team is Nemo, Osprey, Fjallraven, Hoka, and Cedar Summit. So do we need to say any more?
Do we need to say more?
Yes.
Shante then also went on and kind of served, Doug and I on our outdoor playlist too. So I mean, she's just kind of ruling everything these days.
That was the outdoor playlist on the. So I have some notes. First of all, Doug and Shante, way too similar. You needed a third voice on there, like
I agree with that.
Yes. Who would have added clearly some huge misses. Nine Inch Nails doesn't even get a mention. At least Rage Against the Machine got a slight mention from you, Colin. Sublime, no mention. I mean, there's so many great bands that weren't even talked about in the process, right? Nirvana,
it's a
like,
stacked field.
Yeah, no. So, anywho, yeah.
Well, Doug mentioned Nirvana at the end. I don't mind. Nirvana's been talked about enough. They're okay.
Fair. Yeah,
I don't think that was the criteria, though, Colin.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go back and listen to that episode, too. But today, the opening shot is presented by the ultimate comfort of more than 30 amazingly crafted and diverse styles from Lems Footwear, including the Primal Zen. Head to lemsshoes.com to learn more. And guys, we're back. We're back with Tariff Watch 2025.
Wow.
So I think the sound effect for Tariff Watch, it should just be some like huge sigh, just, you know.
A low moan. Tariff Watch 2025, still terrifying.
Terrifying.
Terrifying. Oh, there you go. We're getting, spooky season's right around the corner. We could probably do something for that. So per SGB, a new study has revealed that 73% of U.S. retail companies have experienced profit losses due to the tariff impact so far. 90% of those surveyed are, quote, very concerned about the impact yet to come, with a third of them identifying as extremely concerned. In addition to the latest round of announced tariffs that went into effect last week on August 7th, this is obviously the story of the year, and it's time for our Outdoor Industry Insider to get into the latest. Eoin, you posted a tariff update on LinkedIn this past week. Let's start with the numbers, I guess. What's the latest? What's behind that 73% retailer number reported in the survey?
The first thing I think to understand is that was a general retail, right? So not just outdoor. And right. I think the 73% is mainly retailers selling their own products, right, as opposed to selling other brands. And I think a lot have absorbed the kind of 10%-ish tariff that most have faced so far. A lot of that has been absorbed by the retailers.
Which is what a lot of people thought was where we were going to land in all of this.
So maybe they passed on, a little bit to the consumer. They've absorbed a little bit themselves, but in absorbing that hit, it's really hit their bottom line. And I think that's the main issue. And, they've been absorbing it because it has been quote unquote only 10%. It's still a lot, but only 10%. So that was, right. I think, handleable a little bit. And also, I think there is continued concern that the customer is pretty fragile. So they don't want to increase prices too much. We've got record credit card debt, for example. But also because of the difficulties in executing price changes, because most of that product already had hang tags on it coming over from Asia with the old price, so they were kind of stuck with it. So they've taken a hit there. But yeah, the other folks that are seeing profit hits here are because of the reduced sales, right? And we're seeing that in a lot of the public company outdoor results that have come out for the second quarter, where whether it's Deckers or Columbia or VF Corp, et cetera, what they're all seeing is actually the international markets are doing pretty well, but they're really being pulled down by the U.S. market. And what's the difference between the international retail and U.S. retail? Tariffs. And so it's a continuing drumbeat of U.S. market right now is tough.
Well, and the situation moving from the retail to the brand side isn't hurting just one aspect of our industry, right? But both big and small brands. What has been the fallout? We'll talk about both, but let's start with emerging brands. What's been the fallout on emerging brands? You mentioned in your post on a post last week about a founder who's well, I'll let you explain it. The 50% steel tariff that you were talking about there.
Yeah, so this was a founder, and she's producing some stainless steel products out of China, and that Section 232 tariff, which had been ratcheted up to 25% on all steel and aluminum imports, then got ratcheted up again to 50%, right? And that is coming out of China. That's on top of the 20% fentanyl tariffs. So what had been a 2% tariff going into this year for that founder is now 72%, right? And I mean, these are game-changing numbers when you're already in a startup environment where cash is tight and profitability is tight. So So it's like, does she raise prices? It blows up the wholesale pricing model. I mean, it really, really is problematic. But then also we're seeing, we're hearing stories of U.S. based manufacturers. There was a story about a U.S. based knife manufacturer who voted for Trump. Was all about it, and now is being hit by the 50% increases in steel costs, which are his main raw material. And so he's like, what the hell? I voted for you, and now I voted for U.S. manufacturing, and you're screwing me. So it's really across the board for these smaller brands. The other thing that smaller brands struggle with is typically the MOQs, minimum order quantities, are much lower in China than they are in, let's say, Vietnam or Cambodia. And so, people are saying, oh, just move it to Vietnam, where the tariffs are only, quote unquote, only 20%.
Right.
But they can't do it because they just don't have the volume to do it. So they're stuck. They're stuck in China. They're stuck with 30%, which, may be going back up again. Who knows what, we're recording this on Friday the 8th. So, unless things change over the weekends, we're still hanging at 30%.
I want to ask about the bigger guys, but like one thing I noticed consistently in your posts, and not to get catty, but there's some people who show up there who just be like, it's no big deal, guys. Like all you need to do is just don't worry about it. There's literally like, just don't worry about it posters showing up in your comments. I mean, and then I go over and read, I think that was in Gear Junkie, the article about the one you described, the knife manufacturer. And it's like, this guy's going to go out of business. Like, do you really want to say to that guy, hey, don't worry about it. Just raise your price, whatever you need it to do, whatever you need it to be. I mean, how do you react to that?
It's so insensitive to what's really happening on the ground with these brands. It's I'm not sure if it is just purely Pollyanna-ish or, you are a Trump supporter and therefore you are going to stand up for whatever the president does.
Die on the hill.
Right,
kind of thing.
Exactly. Or if you truly believe in tariffs and that they will return U.S. manufacturing, which they won't in their current form. They are damaging U.S. manufacturing. We have seen U.S. manufacturing volumes or the U.S. manufacturing index drop basically every month since Trump has been in office. So, this is not the answer.
I don't know. I saw Tim Cook in the Oval Office, commit $100 billion to U.S. manufacturing. Do you think that ever actually happens? I think that's just like, yeah, Donnie, don't worry, we're going to do it, but we're never really going to do this.
There's so many of those numbers that get thrown around never happen. They either never happen or they were already going to happen anyway, right?
Right.
Right. I mean, it's all kabuki theater. It's just ridiculous.
All right, so what about the big guys? Because Columbia was in the news on this week. Regardless of the thing we're going to talk about in a second, they were also in the news about on the tariff front as well.
Yeah, and they were, I would say not typically sort of the bleeding heart side of the outdoor industry, and they were all about like tariffs are a effing disaster. They're going to cost them 35 to 40 million in 2025, just in tariffs, right? Just the tariff impact. And that's based upon the 10% rate, right? That's before we even talk about what these new rates that are going into effect are going to mean. And they're basically saying, and 2026 is going to be rough. And I would have to agree with them.
I do want to go back to, and we've definitely referenced this before, but like this was supposed to be the comeback year for the industry. I mean, Go back to some early January episodes with, the three of us on here, and you're like, oh man, it's going to be great. Inventory's down. Like we're ready to go. We're ready to come back. And instead we're dealing with perhaps the biggest self-inflicted wound we've ever seen. So, congrats to Lulu and Backcountry. You're no longer number 1 and 2 on the list of self-inflicted wounds. But fast forward a year from now, I mean, what do you think we're going to be dealing with? I mean, we understand like this is going to slowly get worse, right, in the coming seasons and months. If this stays where it is now, which it's possible it doesn't. But if it does, what do you think we're going to be dealing with a year from now?
Well, the first thing is the price increases aren't really going to hit as much this fall, a little bit, but it's mainly going to be in spring because that summer reprieve meant that really almost all of the fall shipments that left the port before August 7th won't face these big increases. So, most brands like the Columbias are basically absorbing the 10-ish% that they've been hit with, right? Unless you're out of China or steel or whatever. But generally speaking, most are absorbing right now. So they're going to have plenty of time to plan their big price increases for spring. So that's the first thing. But obviously, they're not going to be able to push all of these massive increases onto the consumer. So they're going to have to slash costs elsewhere to make up for that, for the tariff impacts. And where are they going to slash? They're going to slash staffing. They're going to slash marketing. They're going to slash brand building, all those other things that aren't related to cost. So it's going to be, I'm sorry, but I just don't see how it's going to be a great time to be in the outdoor industry from that perspective. Also, the rest of the economy probably won't be in great shape. They'll be really rolling into this year. So you're going to have these increasing prices that are facing just weaker overall demand in the market. So that's not going to help. And then I think on top of that, you're going to have a lot of retailer uncertainty about, what the hell is going on, what will go on. So in the face of uncertainty, retailers are going to pull back on their open to buys, pull back on preseason orders. And so brands are going to be left going into spring of next year with, what do I order, right? Do I order to my book? Do I order to, or do I order a little bit more and hopefully, can sell in? Or do I just basically bake in down 10%? So it's a really tough calculus right now for the outdoor brands.
I think you hit on it, that the tariff is really just the tip of the iceberg that gets the attention. But when you take the job market and the consumer confidence elements pieces, and then throw on the massive reductions to the federal workforce, which are its own uniquely, I think, detrimental to the outdoor industry because of the interior departments, the parks. All of that is related tangentially to the outdoor industry. So those hit our industry a bit harder than others. And so when you put all those together, it does seem like you've got kind of a negative gravity pulling in the other direction, even more important than the tariffs themselves.
Right? Don't worry, Dave. We're going to get people into the right places to tell the right numbers. And
yeah, right.
So it'll be fine.
Oh, yeah, right. Trust those numbers.
Well, this does lead in kind of to our next story, because also per SGB, they reported last week, shares of online reseller ThredUp posted a 14% increase on Monday of last week. And I thought the telling quote in the article was this. The quote was, "And unlike many other companies that are trying to find their way through the tariff jungle, these days ThredUp was able to provide solid guidance by the quarter for the rest of the year." So, Owen, secondhand and resale is something that brands and retailers should be focused on, and we've talked about that a lot in various contexts on the show. But if you could put on your CEO hat for a minute, given the uncertainty that tariffs are creating, how would you move quickly to diversify what you would do and put more emphasis on secondhand, right? So we're saying that it's going to be a year, and over the course of the next year, things are going to be rough. Let's look at it from both the brand and retail perspective, starting with the brand. So, what can a brand do now to create secondhand opportunities to help alleviate, first-run tariff pressure?
I think the first thing is, obviously, if you don't have a used gear model, establish one. But I think most brands now have something, but in many cases, it's sort of hidden away, right? It's this, maybe it's a peer-to-peer thing, but, it's in some far-flung corner of their website, and they just talk about it for like a brand-building email once a season, right? That's it.
Right.
So really, it's about integrating it into your PDPs, your product display pages, so that when the consumer is shopping on your site and they're shopping for the XYZ jacket, they can see, oh yeah, I can get it new for this, but hey, there's 3 that are used, and I can see the quality, whatever, and I can buy that product. Now, what usually stands in the way of that is the people running the D2C site saying, well, I can't have them cannibalizing the sales of my new product. I'm under enough pressure to sell this stuff. Why would I want to be trying to sell, this used gear here as well? And I think what brands don't realize is that that's a different buyer, right? The person that's going to buy the used stuff was never going to buy the new one, and actually the people that buy the new stuff will see that you're selling and supporting used and be more likely to buy new, right? So it's actually a win-win if you co-merchandise these things together. So that would be the first thing. The second thing is, even with doing that co-merchandising, a lot of brands actually have more used. If they start a used gear program with their consumers, they've got more used gear from that and from their own unsaleable returns than they can actually get through. And so then they should be looking, what is the best way to maximize the market for those products to sort of support the price of used. And the best way to do that is actually sell it to your best retail partners. So if you've got some great specialty retailers, say, hey, actually have a conduit for them, because they're the ones taking the lead within our industry in used gear, with used gear shops in specialty stores, or partner with a marketplace like a Gear Trade, again, that has that used gear customer to move through that product and maximize the return on that inventory. So I think those would be the two big things for brands.
And I know we've talked about, secondhand at retail quite a bit over the past few months, but, what about the retailers? What would you recommend there?
Yeah, if you don't have a used gear section in your physical retail store, I would absolutely look to add one. And it can you can source that inventory from a bunch of different places. One is your own returns is one option. The other is, again, working with your brands to see if they have product that you can source. I mean, it's a great way to get off price or low price product to really have for your customer. And then the third is a consignment shop, which a consignment shop it's a great kind of community builder, because your people they're coming in to bring in their goods. They're coming in then to buy and shop. And it's just a good sort of virtuous cycle thing to do. And it becomes a driver, right? It becomes a driver. It becomes an on-ramp to the outdoors for people who can't afford the new stuff. And it also just differentiates you from the big box guys that are out there. So from what I've seen, this is something in looking at some of the GOA numbers that's continuing to grow. I think roughly a quarter of GOA members already have some kind of used gear section, and I think many more are considering adding them.
Yeah, and no one here is suggesting that this would be easy either on the brand or retail front, but it does feel like we're kind of in it's like wartime right now. Like every resource on the table. What do we do to kind of help alleviate any pressure that you're under as we are going through this tariff situation? So I thought it was a worthy thing to kind of bring up. Dave, anything on?
No. Again, this is the inevitable march to trends that are already in play. It's just, if anything, it's going to accelerate them. And I think that's probably a good thing. So brands have to feel pretty good that have started on this, right? That 5 years ago kind of started getting behind it and starting pushing those programs. And we might have even criticized them for the pace of not going fast enough, because this also gets into the whole recycled, repurposed, circular discussion as well. So if these can kind of dovetail together, it might actually have a positive impact. It's not going to replace any, hole in the P&L, but it's still good for the industry.
If we come out of this in a somewhat decent spot, this is something you're going to want to have set up anyway, right? So, hey, no time like the present. Let's get moving.
Yeah.
Lightning round. All right, guys. Well, it's time for the lightning round. Are we ready?
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right, first up in the lightning round, congrats to Altra after a quarter in which they posted an impressive 20% growth, putting them on track to exceed $250 million in revenue compared to the $60 million they were doing when VF acquired them in 2018. Altra also launched an ad campaign called Experience a New High, Running is Dope. So Dave, with Topo taking up more shelf space at specialty, Hoka looking... they look pretty impervious in both the trail and lifestyle markets, and up-and-comers like Norda and Speedland gaining momentum. Looking at these numbers and the brand positioning, are we underestimating Altra?
Who's we, Colin? I believe that's your own mea culpa there. Some of us have never underestimated
I've won more Ultras than anyone on this call.
Maybe.
I love Altra, but we don't talk about them as much compared to these other brands.
We don't. They're just, to that point, there's a lot of other stories going around, and they just kind of continue to fill that space for sure. Part of it could be their color palettes. They kind of blend right in, and so you forget that they're there. But I think they're a great product. I think their brand has a core element to it. That's priceless. New campaign. I get it. It's a little, it's a pun. Use a pun, go to jail. The runner's high of all the things you could pick on. That's what they chose to build. And it's in a effort to be edgy. Again, I applaud all of that. I applaud the positioning, trying to have some fun. No problem. Don't get in the way of that. But that just seems a little bit like meh.
Well, they're doing something right over there.
Oh, totally. Right. Again, we need energy, and we need kind of fun. So to me, that's okay. It's just, again, of all the ways you could do it, that just felt a little safe.
All right, next up in the lightning round, according to Wolverine's Q2 results, Saucony's Q2 sales were up 40%. So, Owen, with all the talk about trail running, is this a sign that road running is coming back to reclaim its place at the top of the running pyramid?
Well, let's be honest, right? Road running has always been at the top of the running pyramid. We just happen to talk just endlessly about trail running on this podcast for some odd reason.
Trail run.
I would say it's at the top and the base of the pyramid, and trail running has got this little slice in the middle.
Exactly. Yes, and that's just it, right? The reality is that this is more about the growing interest in wearing running shoes than running in running shoes. That's what this is all about.
All right, next up, last week, Authentic Brands squashed rumors that had been swirling that Authentic was either going to sell or already had sold athletic brand Reebok to Anta Sports. I should say Arc'teryx's owner, Anta Sports. Dave, is this the rare case of a brand being crushingly disappointed when they weren't sold? Going from Authentic to Anta would certainly have been an upgrade for Reebok.
Yeah, you would definitely think so. Anta's done a good job with their portfolio, and again, Reebok has just been so passed around and beaten up, but it still, I think, has definite potential to reassert itself on the stage if properly positioned and managed, no doubt.
I think actually this would have made a ton of sense. They would have been able to leverage Anta's massive production and distribution scale in China, which would be a huge unlock for them. Plus, Anta is, trying to break into the U.S. market, which, as we know, is not easy, even for a multi-billion-dollar brand like Anta. What if they were to do that, but under the Reebok brand? So, I don't know. This thing may not be dead yet. We'll see.
All right, last lightning round topic. In their earnings report last week, Emerald Expositions, owner of trade shows like Outdoor Retailer, Overland Expo, and Surf Expo, reported a 22% increase in revenue. That increase, however, was driven almost entirely by acquisitions, with their organic revenue being relatively flat. Oh, and given the growth of shows like Overland Expo, is it possible that the struggles of Outdoor Retailer is what kept those numbers from climbing?
I think a bigger factor really was that they actually discontinued 28 smaller or unprofitable events over the past year. I don't think that the revenues from OR this year were dramatically different from 2024, and probably just not enough impact to drive overall Emerald, because they have 142 events, 16 media properties. So I don't think OR was really big enough to push things much one way or the other. It used to be. It used to definitely be one of their flagship shows, but not in its current format.
All right, today's lightning round on the Rock Fight is brought to you by Lem's Shoes. Are you looking for shoes that offer both long-lasting durability and all-day comfort? We'll look no further than Lem's, with a versatile lineup featuring over 30 thoughtfully designed styles, from minimalist sandals and rugged trail boots to vegan-friendly sneakers and laid-back slip-ons. There's truly something for everyone. Whether you're hitting the trail, traveling the globe, or strolling through town, Lem's are built to move with you naturally and keep up every step of the way. Head to lemsshoes.com to get your own pair today. All right, let's move into today's main topic, which is presented by Oboz, the pride of Bozeman, Montana, also the Cupid of the outdoor world. So last week, taking a break from suing other similarly named entities, Columbia Sportswear released a new brand campaign called Engineered for Whatever. And the response has been, let's say it's been special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been great. I love it.
It was a busy week. There was a lot of stuff we could be talking about today, and this definitely felt like the runaway story of the week.
Yeah.
So, Owen, you predicted that Columbia would unleash a hiking-focused campaign in 2025. Is this what you meant?
Of course. This is exactly what I meant. Yes.
Yeah, right.
No, I knew when they brought in, the Adam and Eve, which is definitely kind of a hip and edgy sort of agency out of London, I believe, that it would be a little different.
Yeah.
Did I predict it would be this different? No, I did not. But it's not entirely my cup of tea, I would say, but I'm not the target audience. You look at the reaction on Instagram, and I've never seen so many fire emojis. It is, I think the target audience for this really actually likes it. It's the old farts, like us and the industry curmudgeons that are like, we this is.
And some of those old farts are pretty young too, by the way.
Yeah.
So, Dave, this. I think you could take a win though, Owen, because there's hiking in there.
Yeah, there's definitely
hiking was part of it.
Oh, I'm planning on
and
on
venomous
taking the win.
snakes.
And
Right.
totally, I'm planning on taking the win.
Dave, this is obviously going to be a candidate for our recently launched segment that we're calling The Brief, where you're going to deep dive into brands and their messaging efforts. But there's a little research that goes into that. So stay tuned, everybody. Dave, you're going to get the producer Dave deep dive on this eventually. This one just deserves that initial reaction, though. So, how would you, again, brand guy, how would you summarize what Columbia is trying to do here?
Well, I think you have to be pointed in its strategy. It's clearly not a brand. Overarching brand umbrella for every demographic and psychographic that Columbia has traditionally reached or currently reaches. It is absolutely an over the horizon. This is where we're going. And this is who we're talking to. And it doesn't look like the brand now. So if that's what you're expecting, you will be disappointed. I trust that their media buys will be targeted enough that they'll be able to segment that. I know just over the past few days, they've had a heavy presence on Netflix and Hulu. And so they're doing some heavy media buy behind this, right? So that's the thing, too, about a Columbia. We see it on a LinkedIn or you see it kind of pass through Instagram. And that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of really where the power of it being presented is. It's going to be on the streaming platforms. It's going to be out there living in the world. And that's where, like you said, this audience is going to get it, and they're going to see it. And I'm all for it. It's a big swing. It is to me. There's the ad guy in me that looks at that and goes, well, it's very British. It's got that very hit of British advertising sensibility to it, which I personally like. It's got the dark humor. It's just got the like you said, it's definitely got an agency feel that's outside of the traditional outdoor norm. Awesome, because I don't think the consumer cares anything about that. When you're a global brand like a Columbia, you've got to look to where you put where you build your creative and how can you get the most out of it. Right. So in terms of their European business, that could make sense having that little tone to it. So I think it's a well-worn path. Adidas did the same thing in the 90s when they were kind of hashing their image. They went to a London-based Ligas Delaney, and they created advertising that had to cross the pond. It had to service both markets. They didn't have the dollars to necessarily chase that. And I mean, they did some like in skateboarding and some basketball, but for the most part, having that sensibility does cross, especially if you're making a disruptive statement like they're doing. I think that's the key to that. But no, I'm down for it. Even the song, I mean, Blue Sky. I mean, you're talking what is it? Like with the jazz singer, like, you know what I mean? Like right. Bing Crosby, Willie Nelson, like that's a great choice. And then to metalify it, like there's a lot layered into it. I thought they did a good job.
Well, Dave, you're saying, that's not where Columbia is now. It's where they're going. I certainly agree relative to where they have been in terms of their marketing. And it's been very milquetoast and just like sort of everything else in the boring outdoor marketing ecosystem. But they do have a history of this kind of marketing. Like I was looking at some of their old stuff. Yeah, the One Tough Mother stuff. I looked at one ad from 1997, which is Gert is driving this SUV like through the wilderness, and Tim Boyle is on the roof rack, and he is just getting pelted with with mud and snow and what. And at the end, basically, he gets shit on by a bird. I mean, like hilarious, like really good stuff. And so, that to me, it sort of gives them a little bit of permission to say, hey, we've done this. This isn't just us, just totally zigging and then zagging. But so yeah, and I've got to say though, my favorite part, Aaron Ralston, the cameo there is just chef's kiss. That's good stuff.
I agree. No, you're totally right. I think it is part of their DNA, and I think that gives them a little bit more permission, even if they have strayed a bit. With that campaign you're talking about, actually goes back to the 80s.
Okay,
right? One Tough Mother was in the early 80s, and that I just have to shout out. That's a long time agency partner, Borders, Perrin, and Norander, awesome group, and they turned that into culture, back then. And then 10 years ago, they tried to bring it back, tested tough. So they brought kind of the spirit of Gert back a little bit. But it didn't have the same edge, specific, of clearly where they are now. And it did feel a little safer, but you could see them trying to draw back to that. That was an agency called North that has been working with them for a while. So here they're tapping into that DNA and moving it forward. And it cuts down well from a 60 to a 30. You can do great, social 15s out of it. I've seen some of the print work that they're doing for it. They're still, print is not dead. And some of them are screenshots, that you'd recognize from the campaign, and it's engineered for whatever. Or this jacket is a climate denier. Another Jack Frost ain't got jack shit, so they're really pushing that. And again, they're clean, they're beautiful looking pieces. And then you've got this attitude to it. And then actually the thing that goes along with this is a companion piece that dropped that hasn't made the rounds yet, but it's called, what is it? Test 1 engineered for whatever. And they've got a guy hanging from a helicopter from a rope made of pants tied to each other. And the way that they have made it look is that there is no net. So they're out there over a lake, like Mythbusters meets, kind of jackass kind of way, right? Just kind of throwing it together. And then at the end they reveal, I'm gonna give you the spoiler. At the end they reveal there's like alligators in the lake, and clearly they're in a lake that there are no alligators. But it's still, the way they put it together is fantastic. So it's a wonderful now product specific message in this same kind of way, where the first one's very brand. There's no product about that. It's just pure brand. But yes, now they're getting into more of a direct product benefit type of message to complement the brand, but still a lot of fun. And I expect that they'll do more with that as a series for sure.
So we linked the video in the show notes. If you haven't seen it and you've listened this far, go watch it before and then maybe even go back and listen to what we just said. The one thing I do want to get into is, now obviously there's a lot of enthusiasm on this call for it, but there was an interesting reaction online. I actually commented on someone's post on LinkedIn that the old guard outdoor creatives have put down their tapioca pudding at the retirement center for the formerly edgy individuals, picked up their ice axes, and are coming for this campaign in the most predictable way possible. Because it's not to invoke the casual cord conversation again, but it's like, my God, like how do you look at this, especially with the history? Because that's the funny thing. Like, the people who seem to like it are like, oh, this is so not on brand for Columbia. And how do they expect to support a campaign like this with, this edgy thing that doesn't match their products, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it's so obvious to me what they're trying to do here.
You have to fix the plane and fly it at the same time, Colin. You can't wait for everything to match up. You gotta go. Right.
Well, the hot take that I really don't have any time for is, people are already afraid of getting involved in the outdoors, and now you're showing them all these horrible things that can happen. You're going to drive people away from outdoor activities. It's like, oh my God, you give people a little bit of credit to realize that this is just poking fun at that. And it's actually even like bursting the bubble of those fears and making it also so dumb, right? And actually
I think
reaching
that's
new
it.
people, right? But people just take everything so fucking seriously today. It's insane.
Yeah, I think the absurdistness absolutely paints that in the picture, exactly what you're talking about.
It's just industry gatekeeping at its best. I mean, people are just like, it's got to be my way. This is the way the industry is supposed to be, and I don't like it. And let me tell you why I'm right.
I'll even go and say, I'll gatekeep here. If you can't see the value and the genius of a disruptive type of communication like that, you really shouldn't be in brand strategy. I don't care if it's for you, you dig it. That is such a clear strategic intent of what they're doing, and they executed. Come on, back away from the vehicle.
Well, I went back as I was thinking about this. Last fall, we talked about the We Play Different campaign from the North Face, and and it was one that Dave, you really liked. It's pretty similar, actually. There are moments of that video where people are getting hurt. Yeah. There's a guy with a bloody lip.
I disagree, Colin, because that took itself seriously. This doesn't take itself seriously at all.
100%. I think but the debate there again with the knee-jerk reaction to that was like, what's the North Face? It wasn't that people were getting hurt or that you could get caught in an avalanche. It's that, well, the North Face isn't even an outdoor brand anymore. So why are we even taking them seriously? Right? And that was, so it's just these knee-jerk reactions depending on the brand and the message they're trying to send when the obvious thing is right there, and it just blows my mind every single time it happens.
Right. So of these two campaigns that probably had similar production budgets, which one has truly broken through and broken out of the LinkedIn outdoor sphere?
Oh, the Columbia one.
100%.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah. Yeah. If you just look at the earned coverage in fashion magazines and trades from Europe to the United States, it's been everywhere for the last few days. And so I think that's a huge win just for setting the table for a Columbia on a new path.
Oh, and just from one last thing, from a retailer perspective, right? Because this is, like, again, things that get lost in these conversations, like when we're all sort of like, gazing at our navels about this stuff, right? About like what we think is important. When you see a big swing like this from a brand, like what crosses your mind first? I mean, especially Columbia is an interesting choice considering you were at Moose Jaw, which I'm sure you carried Columbia stuff, but they probably weren't the most important brand to Moose Jaw.
Yeah, they weren't. We carried them online. We didn't really carry them in store. It would make me think twice about the brand and is there going to be some overarching demand halo here that we want to get behind, right? Because it's breaking through, and that's what we need in this sea of sameness. So yeah, I would think twice from a buy perspective.
The website looks like it's been updated too. It's a good looking website to go with it.
Yeah.
Now, to the naysayers, to their credit, the product looks like Columbia product still. It'll be interesting to see if there is some shift, like just visually, color-wise, whatever it is. I mean, it's outdoor stuff, so you can't really.
They're so broad, though, Colin. They can have a shift in just part of their line that's directed at the target of this type of communication. It doesn't mean the whole thing has to move.
You can poor Columbia if you think about it, right? I mean, you bring up the ad campaigns of the past. Every year they're out there releasing Star Wars product. They put out like this video, and we're all like, "Yeah, but you're lame."
Space shuttle, right?
Right. They're constantly throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks, and we're like, "Nah, you're lame. Fuck off, Columbia." That seems to be the prevailing sentiment here. It cracks me up. So we are going to earmark this one though, Dave, for an episode of The Brief. You're doing some research and doing some digging on this already, I believe.
No, we'll see. We'll see. They have to play. No one's gotten back to me about it. So that's the...
All right. Anyone at Columbia on the creative side who has something to do with this campaign, please reach out, myrockfight@gmail.com. We would love to talk to you more about it and its development for sure. All right, today's episode of The Rock Fight was presented by Oboes, who wants to share their love of hiking. And we want to help them by uncovering all the different reasons we love to take the long walk, including the following. Number one, that euphoric moment when you realize that you're not lost. Like, I'm supposed to be where I am. Thank God. We all know that one. Mm-hmm. Number two, because getting caught in hail can build lifelong memories to go with some mild trauma.
With welts.
Number three, because the mountain doesn't care if you make it, but you still try. And number four, you'll be way less traumatized if you're out there in your Oboes Hyalite Mid waterproof boots. Oboes Hyalite is rooted in the spirit of Hyalite Canyon, designed for lasting comfort and made with recycled and bio-based materials. The Hyalite collection is designed to support your stride, whether that's out on rocky switchbacks or wandering closer to home. And this hiking appreciation moment is brought to you by Oboes of Bozeman, Montana. Oboes is the maker of premium quality footwear for the trail and the Cupid to the outdoor world. Oboes, love hiking. It's time for a party shot. All right, for the parting shot, I saw a story last week about a guy named Brian Weens who has skied once a month for the past 25 years. His streak began in August of 1995 and has continued with at least one ski day for 300 consecutive months. So first, that's remarkable.
How is he
managing?
How is he managing this?
Where does he live?
He's a Colorado guy. I think there's some thin months there where he's just putting on skis and, there's some patches or some small glaciers or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And maybe he traveled for some of it. I don't know. I definitely, though, enjoy an outdoor story like this one more than like reading about FKTs or some, big endurance accomplishment, because a guy like Brian surely had challenges that were more of the everyday variety. I'm sure he had to go out there when he was like sick or had other commitments. So this is a very
soccer
cool
practice.
type of, yeah, right. I don't know if he's a dad, but absolutely. Very cool type of endurance. It's endurance against time more than like, physical activity. And for my parting shot, I have to ask, what didn't Brian get to do because he continued to choose to do this? And I don't know the guy. Maybe this is all he wanted to do. And in that case, more power to him. But the worst part to me, of prepping for a big event or a race or something where there's things you can't do because you're committed to prepping for that big event. So my first thought when I saw this was thinking of someone calling up Brian Weens with free tickets to a show at Red Rocks or something and him having to say, "Oh, man, would love to go, but I got to go and get my my August turns on that patch of snow, just to make sure I check this box. So the outdoors are wonderful, but I think they can also become a burden if we let that happen. And that's my parting shot. That's just my own cynical point of view that I thought of when I read this story.
Wow,
it's no burden, Colin. It's no burden.
That's a horrible take, Colin, on a lovely story.
I admit it's more reflective on me.
Wow.
I understand that. If he's happy, that's great.
Okay, there's something.
But I remember I was training for an ultra marathon, and I was so tired of running, and I called my buddy who does ultras regularly. And I'm like, dude, I hate running. I don't want to go running anymore. I want to go mountain biking or something. He goes, oh no, man, you're doing it right if that's how you feel. Because that's how much time you have to put in running to get ready for these big events. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. This is terrible. Why do people do this all the time? So
it's like one of those things
it's called cross training.
Right. On your deathbed, will you say to yourself, gosh, I wish I'd run another ultra marathon?
Right.
No.
And Brian would say, God, I wish I had gone for 600 months.
There
maybe
go.
That's
there you go.
Maybe that's just his jam. And good for him. So
leave it to global warming to end his dream.
Jeez.
Oh,
wow. That is dark, Dave. That is just
took the heat off of me, Dave. Thanks,
buddy. Dark. Look around.
That's true. We started with tariffs. We end with global warming. That's
right. All right, everybody. Have a great Monday. Oh, and it's Monday.
Hey! All right, that's the show for today. We want your emails. Send them to myrockfight@gmail.com. The Rock Fight's a production of Rockfight LLC. Today's producer, you heard him, producer Dave, for Eoin Comerford and Colin True. That's me. And Sarah. Thank you, Sarah Genser, for being our art director. I left her out of the script today. So thanks, Sarah. I'm Colin True. Thanks for listening. And here to take us out, Krista Makes with the Rock Fight song. We'll see you next time, Rock Fighters.